Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan Lugo. Thank you so much for tuning in here on Thursday, May 9th. One day before rookie minicamp kicks off, we're going to start getting into minicamps, OTAs, and then eventually mandatory minicamp, which the Jaguars veterans usually get off. We'll see how it goes this year. And then obviously training camp, which will get kicked off, in July. So we're working our way towards the 2024 season here. Before rookie minicamp gets going, I wanted to look at what are the 5 biggest changes, expected changes for the Jaguars in 2024? Like, what's going to be different for this football team here than it was in 2023 and prior to that? We're going to talk about it here today. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear, become a channel member right here on YouTube, get some cool perks. So let's dive into these 5 major differences, right? I think that the upgraded trench talent / experience leadership in the trenches is massive for the Jaguars. So you can talk about them upgrading what they already had here in terms of guys taking steps forward. Devon Hamilton was not healthy in 2023. Are you closer to what you saw prior to the back situation that he had? Because throughout 2022, he had an excellent season, into the 2023 offseason, into training camp, and into the preseason. He was dominating up front for the Jaguars. Is he closer to that in 2024 than he was in 2023? You talk about Ezra Cleveland pretty much got injured right when he got to Jacksonville, was playing through injury. Cam Robinson got injured. Walker Little was playing through injury. So there was a lot of injury situations up front in the trenches for the Jaguars. Hopefully, those will work themselves out a little bit. But the upgrade in talent through free agency and the draft cannot be overstated, in my opinion. You have brought in on your offensive line. You have gone from one of the worst centers in the league in terms of starting centers, right, in Luke Fortner, and hopefully he can kind of rebound from what was certainly a step back down the stretch in 2023. But you brought in Mitch Morse, who is an excellent athlete. He is a guy who has played in Doug Peterson's offense before, going back to Kansas City. He is a leader. He is a team captain. Most importantly, he's a damn good football player. This guy gets the job done in pass protection. He gets the job done in the run game as well, and he's going to be a leader up front for the interior of this offensive line. Obviously, again, Ezra Cleveland is a better starter than what you had going into the 2023 season at left guard. That is an upgrade, in my opinion. He was not healthy, so you didn't see the real Ezra Cleveland last year. But I think that's an upgrade, a change from what you saw heading into 2023, right? So that's what they did on the trenches offensively. Defensively is where you see major upgrades with Eric Armstead, right? Armstead comes in as one of the best interior pass rushers in the game. He's a guy that big-time experience, big-time leadership, very good athlete, knows how to weaponize his hands at an extremely high level, get into the backfield, make plays in big games. He's a big game player, right? Somebody that shines every time he makes it to the playoffs. So someone that upgrades the talent, upgrades the leadership, upgrades the experience. And now you have Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, who took a big step forward in 2023. And then Eric Armstead can also support that pass rush more than you had with anyone else in 2023. And you're hoping Devon Hamilton can do that as well. And you're hoping Roy Robertson Harris, in more of a role instead of being a full-time guy, can step up even further. And he's been a leader for this team. He was a captain last year. But I think that you want to see even more pass rush from Roy Robertson Harris. And then you bring in Mason Smith in the second round. Who is he an upgrade right now? We don't know. We're going to find out. But he is an upgrade when it comes to the overall talent. And I think Jordan Jefferson is going to upgrade the back end of the talent as well on the defensive line. So I think that the Jaguars did a really good job upgrading the interior parts of their lines of scrimmage, which was really their biggest weakness in 2023. Massive upgrades there. I solemnly believe that. Now, they also upgraded team speed and athleticism in a big way. We're going to talk about 40-yard dash percentiles here, right, of the guys that they brought in. Brian Thomas Jr., 94th percentile speed, and we know all the other athletic traits that he brings to the table as well. He's got size, length, vertical explosive ability, and of course, yes, that 4.33 speed. Ronald Darby, sub-4 40-yard dash, an 89th percentile speed guy you brought in to play opposite Tyson Campbell to be a starting corner for your Jaguars. Darnell Savage, 97th percentile speed at safety. Jarian Jones, 89th percentile speed. DeAndre Prince, 89th percentile speed. Keelan Robinson, who you brought in to be a kick returner and potential role player at running back, 88th percentile speed. Devin Duvernay, who I forgot to include on this list here, he is another fast football player, right? 86th percentile speed. Mitch Morris on the interior of the offensive line, I mentioned he's a good athlete, 80th percentile speed. Mason Smith, 70th percentile. Jordan Jefferson is in the 60s at 316 pounds in terms of his percentile speed. 508 40-yard dash at 316 pounds is absolutely cooking. The Jaguars upgraded their team speed in a big way. They're a more athletic football team going in to the 2024 season. No question about it. And that doesn't even include Miles Cole, who's an absolute freak. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to make any impact in 2024 because he's such a developmental player. And then Travis Gibson, who's also a good athlete the Jaguars brought in here as a rotational edge. So, yeah, I think the Jaguars, you can't overstate how much more athletic they are than they were in 2023. And that doesn't include Gabe Davis either because he's not a big-time speed guy. But his weight-adjusted speed is pretty impressive because he plays about 220 pounds, runs a 4.5 40-yard dash. You see him with a high average depth of target. He's able to get deep, get vertical against defenses. So I think that you see athleticism there. It's not quite the same as a Brian Thomas Jr. athleticism-wise, but you have got athleticism in a lot of these newcomers. New defensive coordinator. Another huge change for these Jaguars. New defensive scheme, you're going to see more four-man fronts. I think you're going to see less edge players dropping into coverage. It still exists in a Ryan Nielsen defense, but you're going to see 4-2-5 a lot. That's 4 down linemen, whether they're actually down with a hand in the dirt or not, doesn't matter as much. And then 2 linebackers and 5 defensive backs, right? You're going to see that a ton. You are going to see more aggressiveness in terms of the way they play coverage and the way they come downhill. I think that Ryan Nielsen, being a defensive guru, he's going to come in, defensive line guru, he's going to come in and he's going to have these guys in the right spots where they're supposed to be. And the fact that Josh Allen is getting more experienced, he's now a close to $30 million player. Eric Armstead comes in with a ton of experience. Trayvon Walker is getting more experience. All these guys getting more experience, getting coached up by good defensive line coaches. I think they're going to be more fundamentally sound. I think that when you talk about the coverage, obviously you're going to see more press coverage. You're going to see more aggressive looks from the coverage units, and you're going to see more variation. The Jaguars, they did not have a defensive game plan week to week that was all that different, generally speaking. They did have different coverage looks, but they were all built in. They were all pretty easy to predict, pretty easy to tell what they're doing. You tried to disguise some. You obviously blitzed a ton, but in terms of the actual coverage looks, they weren't very aggressive. The Jaguars are going to now be a more downhill, attack-oriented defense, even if they blitz less. So I think Ryan Nielsen did a great job with the Atlanta Falcons. I think he's more detail-oriented. I think he is more about preparation than what you've seen here in the past. No slight at Mike Caldwell, but I think some things clearly lost their way on the defensive side of the ball for the Jacksonville Jaguars at times during each of the last 2 seasons. Ryan Nielsen has been a defensive coordinator. He's been a co-defensive coordinator. His Atlanta Falcons last year, they were fantastic on third down. They were really good in the red zone. That's where the Jaguars need to upgrade. They have the talent to do so on the defensive side of the ball. I like Ryan Nielsen. I like his defensive staff, especially Chris Richard in the secondary. I think this defense is going to be an upgrade from a scheme standpoint and from a talent standpoint, as I already mentioned. But it will be a change. Regardless of whether or not it ends up being a massive upgrade, it will be a big change for the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2024. And then these next two things are more of hopeful changes for me. Offensive play calling. Will Doug Peterson retake the reins as the Jaguars offensive play caller, or at least be more hands-on in that regard? Press Taylor took over as the full-time play caller in 2023. The play calling was not as successful as it was in 2022. Now, a lot played into that. It wasn't just the fact that Press Taylor wasn't doing a good job, but I don't think he made the most of his opportunities as the Jaguars play caller in 2023. And Doug Peterson has already talked multiple times about the potential of him taking over play calling duties again in 2024. I think he absolutely needs to do that. I think he will do that because, quite frankly, why would you bring it up? Or why would you even entertain the idea publicly if you weren't leaning in that direction? So I think Doug Peterson is going to, at the very least, be more hands-on. We'll see how it plays out. I think that based on his track record, it should be better than what you saw in 2023. And then health, right? The Jaguars were one of the most injured teams in the league last year. You lost at various times your starting left tackle, your second-string left tackle, your starting left guard. You also lost your number one receiver in Christian Kirk, your number two receiver in Zay Jones. You lost your number one corner for a long stretch of the season, and then he was battling through injury when he got back. You lost your number one safety for a long stretch of the season. Devon Hamilton was never himself throughout the season. There were so many injuries for your Jacksonville Jaguars in 2023, and that doesn't even include the fact that Trevor Lawrence, the face of the franchise, the star quarterback, was playing through injury for most of the season, at least half the season. He was dealing with leg injuries, shoulder injuries, head injuries, concussion. Trevor Lawrence was going through it. And now I think he's going to be entering the season fully healthy. All these guys are going to be entering the season healthy. Fortunately, none of those injuries were major rehab throughout the entire offseason type situations for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think that they should be a healthier team in 2024. At least that's the hope. So those are the 5 biggest changes for the Jaguars heading into the 2024 season. Would love to know what you guys think about what will be different for the Jaguars in 2024. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also check out genjag.com/shop. Pick up some new Duval gear like the hat I'm wearing right now. You can become a channel member here on YouTube. Get access to some cool perks. Links in the description below. Y'all have a good one.